There are two different types of Tekken players, those who know how to sidestep and those who don't know how to sidestep. And for a very long time, I was in that second category because coming from 2D games, I thought I had a brilliant idea, a brilliant strategy. Here was my brilliant strategy. Are you ready? So my whole plan was, okay, I'm gonna learn how to backdash cancel super good. I'm gonna be like the pro level backdash canceler all day, every day.
Razor Rush doesn't block the mid. He's backing up. Look at Jackie Tran trying to figure out how am I going to approach this. Look at this. I'm out of here. 18 seconds left. Clock's winding down. Razor Rush for to represent the counter hit. Backing up. 13 seconds left. Down one while standing 4. Really sick. Jumps in the air to reduce damage. 9 seconds left. Jackie Tran. Oh my God, so sick.
So I spent hours, hundreds of hours in fact, learning to backdash cancel on both sides. That's only half. Here's the other half. Are you ready for this? I'm also gonna get really good at throwing electrics. So I'm gonna backdash, backdash, backdash. You stick out any limb, here comes the electric. I thought this is brilliant. The electric underground. We've solved the formula of Tekken. We've done it. We did it. And the funny thing is that compared to other 3D fighting games like Virtua Fighter and Soul Calibur and even Dead or Alive to some degree, at least the later ones, this kind of works way longer than it's supposed to. Tekken kind of allows you to do this way longer than the other games, because if you try to pull that in Virtua Fighter, you're getting owned immediately. That doesn't work at all because Virtua Fighter is built on a fundamental 3D system, and it is very, you're gonna play 3D, damn it. Against your will, I will force you to learn how to play 3D. And so it was actually funny a few years ago when the Virtua Fighter 5 re-release came out, the esports version, which is pretty cool actually, and you watched all the Tekken players' reaction to Virtua Fighter. They're like, what is this crap? What is this BS? What is this dumb shit? And I think a lot of it is because a lot of Tekken players still to this day are stuck in this linear 2D style of gameplay because Tekken kind of lets you get away with it for a long time. Until the day comes when you're getting up the ranks and you're starting to play better and better players, and you go to throw your electric and the dude sidesteps it, and you're like, what? How did he do that? How did he sidestep it? And then you get launched in the air. What do? You know, you can't beat this guy. You're throwing electrics, he's sidestepping them. You're throwing homing moves, he's blocking them and then punishing you for throwing homing moves. You're helpless. And so at that point, I had to take a step back from Tekken 7 and say, all right, what do I do here? How do I get better at this game? And this is something a lot of people, I'm sure, have come up to in Tekken 7, and there's kind of a fork in the road for you as a player. And that fork is, do you go down the 3D path and actually learn how to sidestep? Or do you just continue to get really, really good at this mini game of linear Tekken? And what's funny is that if you are even an experienced Tekken player, if you come into Tekken 7, and we will get to Tekken 8 in a minute here, this is all set up. If you come into Tekken 7, and you decide, okay, I'm just gonna spam back at these spammers, I'm gonna trade spamming with them and trade this linear style gameplay, they're going to own you. They're gonna be surprisingly really good at that style of gameplay because that's all they do all day, every day. And Lars is unbeatable because you can't stop his hop kick, but if you learn to play three-dimensionally, the game shifts. So when Lars does his giant hop kick, you can just see him hanging in the air. You just sidestep him, and he's like this duck flying through the sky. You just got your shotgun. But if you don't engage in that third dimension of game design, then there's lots of moves in Tekken that are just straight up spammable and broken. Like they're just way too good if it was purely a linear two-dimensional game. And so I do understand absolutely how new players get frustrated with the series. And the thing with Tekken 7, the sort of double-edged sword of that game is that Tekken 7 was like, all right, if we look at the marketplace here, remember the time that Tekken 7 came out, it was a rough time for the Tekken series. Tekken Tag 2, while an awesome game, not all that popular, and not even popular competitively. It was having a tough time. So Namco looked around at the graveyard that is Virtua Fighter. They're like, nope. Then they look at Street Fighter, they're like, okay, this is what we do. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take these two-dimensional aspects of Tekken and we're gonna kind of buff them. We're gonna make them better. And then, you know, those sort of nagging 3D style elements of Tekken, you know, backdashing, sidestepping, sidewalking, all that crap. Yeah, let's tone that down. Let's up the tracking and drop the evasiveness so that when the 2D players come in, we'll give them Akuma too, they feel a little bit more at home. They feel like, yeah, you know, I can play, I can hold my own, yeah. And then after a while, you do have to confront its three-dimensional system, but it's too late. You already bought the game, you've probably already played the game like 50 hours, and I'm sure this is kind of the typical trajectory of most people who got Tekken 7. They bought it, they played it for about 50 hours, then they started to discover, wait, you know, doing these linear strings and stuff has a limit, forget that, and they move on and they go play a 2D game again. So Namco struck this brilliant but very, very delicate balance with Tekken 7, where it was just linear enough to get the 2D players to play it and to like it to some degree, but it still retained just enough three-dimensional stuff that it was still a legit Tekken game once you got out of the 2D trap that the game kind of puts you in. So my biggest critique of Tekken 7 is that yes, it got a whole new giant audience for the series, but it also didn't give that audience the tools that they need to leave the two-dimensional trap and enter the wonders of the three-dimensional fighting system world. It doesn't really help you along that journey. And so when people ask me for advice at getting better at Tekken 7, I think probably the most legitimate and good advice you'll get is, okay, you're gonna have to just have a moment of zen with yourself and realize that if you want to get better at Tekken 7, you're gonna have to lose, and you're gonna have to lose
a lot.
Because you're gonna have to learn how to sidestep. And that game is very mean to little baby sidestepping toddlers. I being one of them for a very long time, where you don't quite know what you're doing. You're like trying to sidestep, you're barely getting around things, and if you miss your sidestep, you're getting launched and you're losing half your health bar. And so most people, you know, the risk reward of that is just way too high. And I remember when I sat down and said, okay, I'm gonna learn how to sidestep, I'm gonna stop doing just backdashes and electrics. I'm gonna learn more proper 3D fighting. My rank went deranked all the way back. And it was really hard to rank back up because I got deranked all the way back trying to learn all these fundamentals. And then by the time I started getting good enough to sidestep, then people would just rage quit. So it took me like forever to get my rank back up. So yeah, that player progression is really satisfying, but I think it's a really big shame that Tekken 7 not only doesn't help you, but like actively punishes you for trying to get better at the game. And ironically, the final linchpin for me of learning to sidestep more properly wasn't even Tekken. It was when I started playing Virtua Fighter 5. And Virtua Fighter 5 immediately insists that you play a 3D fighting style. Immediately. It's like, okay, you need to learn to sidestep now, today. It doesn't pander to this whole trying to whiff punish backdash style. It immediately insists that you start playing three-dimensionally. So with all that being established about Tekken 7, we now arrive at Tekken 8. And my big fear coming into this game was, what is Namco going to do? Because like I said, they found a very, very delicate balance with Tekken 7. And overall, despite my complaints about Tekken 7, I actually do like the game a lot. And it is quite likely that we will look back on Tekken 7 very similarly to how people look back on Street Fighter 4 as like a groundbreaking game that maybe we'll miss in a very short period of time. But anyway, so Tekken 8, they have the fork in the road. Which do they go? Do they do what I hoped, which is, yes, you can do all that 2D stuff you love so much. You can have your rage arts and your two-dimensional characters and your whiff punishing and all that sort of thing and your hop kicks. But on the down low, we're just gonna start sneaking in some more 3D elements. We're gonna give you a little bit of a buff to your sidestep. We're gonna give you a little bit of a buff to your backdash. We're gonna tamper down the tracking of your favorite moves and strings that you spam over and over again. We're gonna make them a little bit more linear, and we're gonna reward three-dimensional play. And I don't mean drastically. I don't mean all of a sudden we're playing Tekken 5 again. I mean like a step back to the Tekken Tag 2 era of movement and sidestepping and sidewalking, something like that. But instead, of course, what Namco decided to do was, well, it was working with Tekken 7, nerfing the movement, nerfing the tracking, adding more tools and panic options like reducing throw breaks, making getting off the ground easier, wake up rage arts. That's my least favorite thing about Tekken 7, stupid wake up rage arts. We're gonna bring all that back and then some. Not only are we going to slightly nerf the backdash, and slightly nerfed the sidestep and sidewalk. And I can't say for 100% certain that like by the numbers they are nerfed. I did do a little unofficial test on the PS5 of backdashing and sidestepping between Tekken 7 and Tekken 8. And honestly, it looks like it's slightly nerfed in Tekken 8. But I can tell you, it definitely feels nerfed in Tekken 8. I don't know what exactly is going on from a coding level. When the PC port comes out, I'm sure we'll know. But as far as how the code is working, it's hard to tell. But I can definitely say that when I'm getting hammered on by 2D players who are just rinsing, repeating their little mix-ups and strings, in Tekken 7, I backdash out of there, I sidestep out of there, I make them play the 3D game. In Tekken 8, playing this beta so far, like, it was legitimately hard to even get out of it in the first place. I had to sort of respect their spam way more than I did in Tekken 7 because I couldn't get out of it. It's like being stuck in a washing machine. I'm just getting thrown over and over and over. I couldn't get out of it the same way that I could in Tekken 7. And that's just on the fundamentals. But now let's talk about the real chili on the enchilada, the heat system. Because remember what I was saying before about Tekken 7 leaning into those 2D elements? Well, Tekken 8's like, they're here, baby, because they are baking it deep, deep into the gameplay. For example, poking. In the past, when I was playing a more linear style of Devil Jin, I had a really basic mix-up. That basic mix-up was, I come in with the electric and launch you, or I come in with the demon's paw and knocks you down, right? So you're ducking, or you standing, then I'll come in with a low hell sweep every now and again. So there's my little basic mix-up I'll run over and over again. That gets beaten by sidestep, but sidestep, if it doesn't exist, it's actually a hell of a good mix-up if there is no sidestep. But anyway, in Tekken 8, they have buffed this style of gameplay specifically, where I come in with the electrics. Electrics are probably really good in Tekken 8 because you can't get around them. You can't sidestep them as easily. But not only that, let's say if you're like, okay, fine, I'm just gonna duck and I'll eat the damn demon's paw. All right, fine, you hit me with your demon's paw, I'll take the stupid hit, but I'm winning the long game because at least you're not getting a launch on me. Well, welcome to heat system, bitch. Because I come in and I demon's paw you, and now the demon's paw FADC cancels via the hit system into like overdrive mode. So now I've got you in this nasty mix-up, and not only do I have you in the nasty mix-up, but my electrics are now free. When you're in heat, electrics are automatic. You don't have to even time them. You can just throw hook fists to your heart's content. And in fact, if you look at the tutorial for the heat system, in no uncertain detail and no fogginess, the game says clearly, when you are in heat, spam moves. Spam moves because not only do you get lots of cool free electrics and I'm sure powered up moves in other ways, but also you do chip damage while you're at it. So while you're sitting there blocking 5 electrics I'm throwing at you, you're also taking chip damage. And then if you have the audacity to duck my electrics, if you even try to duck my electric, I'm gonna come in with the demon's paw, and the demon's paw has like a special cancel on your ass. And this is a lot of characters. Obviously I'm playing Jin, but a lot of characters have this kind of crap. And I can already predict what a lot of people are going to be typing in the comments. A lot of people are going to be typing in the comments, well, did you see Knee's stream? Did you see JDCR's stream? Did you see the streams of the top players in the world? What are you even talking about, dude? If you watch their streams, they're sidestepping stuff, no problem. They're playing Tekken as Tekken is usually played, no issues. The thing people need to remember is the top Tekken players are on a stratosphere of game design that no longer makes sense. And this is something that I really try to explain on my channel, which is when it comes to skill tiers and skill progression, the people who have some of the least important things to say about the game's balance are the best players in the world because they're unrelatable to the rest of the fan base. So if you give me or JDCR even the shittiest sidestep ever invented, they will still, through the power of their skill and knowledge and familiarity with the game, they will still use this terrible sidestep effectively. They will still find a way. And the heat system just compounds this further. And another thing I know people are going to say is, well, you know, it's aggressive play. That's what they said in the developer interviews. It's aggressive play. Aggressive play is interesting and fun and exciting, and people like aggressive play. No, aggressive play is lame in this style. There's certain ways that aggressive play is cool, and there's certain way where aggressive play is lame. Let me make the distinction. Aggressive play that is cool is aggressive play that has a lot of interaction and movement and speed, like Virtua Fighter. Virtua Fighter, you could say, is an aggressive game because of the speed in which the game takes place. But when it comes to the balance of the moves and balance of the frame data, it does not encourage spamming at all. It is like the least spammable fighting game ever made. You can like barely spam anything because everything has a reaction and that reaction can take place very quickly. So Virtua Fighter, despite being labeled as stiff by a lot of Tekken players, is actually a lot more fluid and interactive because you're always having to make decisions, even when you're on defense, because do you sidestep, do you crouch dash, do you abare with the jab? Like there's a lot of stuff you can do. But with the heat system, because it's overcharging the aggressive onslaught of the attacks, here's what you're gonna be doing. Block. You're gonna be blocking all day, every day, and most likely in the corner because the heat system, on top of everything else, also gives you amazing corner carry. I had a guy down to his last sliver of health with rage, with heat, and I'm coming in for the kill. I'm an idiot. I've been playing Virtua Fighter. I've been playing Tekken 7. I come in to do the finisher on the guy, Rage Art. I have like 80% health though, so I'm like, all right, fine. You can throw yourself a Fiesta, but as soon as I land with half a bar, you're still gonna lose and you don't have a Rage Art anymore. You know, it's a Pyrrhic victory, I would say. Well, how wrong I was, because the guy Rage Arts me, does a ton of damage, carries me into the corner, activates heat, hits me with heat, and before I can do anything, before I can get up off the ground, I've lost like a massive chunk of health. And then right at the end, I stand up and he snake edges me. And I'm like, God damn it, are you serious? Now, the second round he did this, I did block the snake edge, but I'm just saying that whole position should not have even been possible. It should not be possible in Tekken, in my opinion, to go from a sliver of health with one Rage Art to killing me, essentially. That is a comeback factor to make Ultra Street Fighter jealous. And so after all this complaining, I'm sure the natural question is, well, will I be playing Tekken 8? And the funny thing is, yes. Yes, I will be playing Tekken 8. And it's kind of because I have no other choice, because look at the 3D fighter landscape. Virtua Fighter, Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur. They're like all dead or irrelevant, you know, the tragedy of fighting games. The only viable 3D fighting game to play and people will actually play it with you and kind of care that you play the game is Tekken. And it will be Tekken 8. And Namco knows this. They know if you're into 3D fighting games, you have to play Tekken 8. You have no other choice. You got nowhere else to go. They own the whole 3D fighting game landscape because they have no competitors. And because there is no 3D fighter alternative, then they can kind of just hone in on their target demo, the 2D players. Because the 3D players, they're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. With the 2D players, who are probably the vast majority of their player base, and I'm sure they have data on this, they're the people Namco are concerned about leaving, and the design of Tekken 8 clearly shows that. They are saying to this demographic,
don't go. Don't leave Tekken, for the love of God, please. Don't play Street Fighter 6. Play Tekken, please, I beg you. We'll give you heats and FADC cancels and wake up ultras and supers, man. Just say, don't go, please, don't go.
And I think they're probably right. A lot of people are going to be perfectly happy with this direction in the series, because what Namco are saying is that, yeah, we don't have confidence in this whole 3D fighter thing. Look at Tekken Tag 2. Look at how that turned out. You know, we still have PTSD from that. Forget that whole crap. You don't have to play Tekken three-dimensionally. This is not that much of a 3D game. You can play it like 2.5D kind of game, and we're just perfectly happy being a sort of Street Fighter knockoff that the Street Fighter players play on the side, and people watch in tournaments and marvel at sidesteps and sidewalks and have no clue how to do any of that. We'll just keep this distinction nice and clear. We'll have 80% of the player base be linear players without a care in the world, and then we'll have the other 20% be 3D players, and a lot of them going, I sidestepped that, I swear I did. So please, Namco, I know this is a very early version of the game, so I'm hoping before we get to release, please buff sidestep, buff movement, and nerf tracking at least a little bit. Make it so that when I'm trying to sidestep Paul's death fist, I'm not sweating in terror every time I press up or down on the arcade stick. Please. Because in my opinion, the way to help balance out the spammy heat system as it currently exists is to at least give people the chance to sidestep the demon's paw in the first place. So please like, subscribe, tell all your friends. Adios, everyone.
So thank you to the $5 patrons, 100, accepting Panda, Admiral Coconut, Anhold, Alexander Pfeiffer, Dingo, Anthony A, Arcade Hell, Arrow Viper, Beam Pit, Bo, Ben, Beetle Dames, Bog Hog, Borgy22, Brian Shiver, Brian Romano, Chase Palumbo, Shadow Maltese, Chris Yusufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Clara Cliff, Climby Coyote, Coast, Colorboy, Cooksan666, Cook Some Soup, Corey Mark, That's Audio, Dan Shi, Darren Griffin, Dave Hansen, David Crespo, Delta Tango 6, Disco Star Slayer, DJ420 Praise It, Elias Alonso, Evan Serafit, FCK, Frames Per Human, Francisco, Full Set, Retro Schmupper, GPM, Hausu, Jake Ryan, JLab, JBRPG, John Kelly, George Sand, Gameboy Guru, K, K2, Contain, Praise the Boys, K-Horse, Low Casting, Malaise, Matt O'Leary, Maz, Megadeth 859, Minung, Michael McCord, Mitch L.Y., Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, Neon Dagger Games, Oklo Googles, Oxidated, Pedro Isilis, Psycho Blizzard, Rattlecat, Raul, Rilskeen, Riff Mason, Rolf015, Scanline City, Seesaw FW, Shmup Donkey, Pong, Steve Fiction, Street Magic, Superfunk, SW1335, Tamzarian, Takero Mucho, Taze Royu, The Boot Rex, The Dirty Screech, The N1, The Old Bensta, Tony Latundula, TRM, Toho Rizardi, Zugumo, 2YU, Twilight EX, Unicoi Roots, Ursula, Vic Viper, Beautiful, Labulegs, Yuzakaya, Zachary Patton, and Zeal.